From southern Italy, Championship Sunday has arrived. This is the final day of racing at the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix Taranto. After an amazing first day with 3 high-speed fleet races, the international field is ready to battle again on the pristine waters of the Mediterranean. Big crowds have made their way to Taranto's seawall to witness the world's best sailors to compete on these foiling F-50 catamarans. Alongside Olympian Stevie Morrison and former world champion Emily Nagel, I'm Todd Harris. Right now, let's take you back to day one, where Mother Nature provided plenty of power as the teams did their best to handle the challenging conditions to put themselves into a top 3 position and a spot in the event final.
Taranto provided challenging, top-end conditions.
The race is on in Italy.
Oh, what a start at the top of the line for the Australians.
One, coming down.
Germany suffered a broken daggerboard, but no one could catch the Australians.
The 3-time reigning and defending champions, you cannot give them this kind of lead.
But Emirates GBR were always on their heels.
2 for 2 for the Australians as they win again in Taranto on day 1.
Nice race.
It's going to be interesting if anyone can take this last race off the Australians. This is the umpire's early start penalty.
Oh, there you go. They need to drop to the back of the fleet.
It's ROCKWOOL Denmark that takes the lead.
Nice work.
It's the epitome of clear sailing as Denmark comes across the line and wins race 3 here at the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix Taranto.
That's all right. It's a good thing.
So after 3 fleet races on day 1 here in Italy, it looks like this. Emirates GBR and Australia are tied atop the board at 26. Then you've got France at 24 and 3rd, and ROCKWOOL Denmark 1 more point behind them. Canada, USA, Switzerland, Spain with plenty of work to do, with Germany bringing up the rear.
Well, on day 1, my ROCKWOOL rock star of the day, Nina Curtis there, back of the boat, strategist straight back on board to a huge day out in the bay. Plenty of breeze, plenty of action, some great calls from Nina, and good to see her back racing.
But yesterday, there was a big incident on board the United States SailGP team involving flight controller Hans Henken, who was impacted by the water coming over the boat during a maneuver, and unfortunately, he was taken to hospital, where driver Jimmy Spittle paid him a visit after racing.
Yeah, so I was with Hans last night in the hospital and with his wife Helena, and great news, he's had his sense of humour back. Kept him last night, probably going to keep him again, but the pressure of the water, which you cannot fight, that's where the damage was done with Hans, and he was pinned back into the boat. So, yeah, from then on, I've got to say that the team did a very good job of managing the situation, and a big thank you to the safety team. And I think that's a real credit to the entire organisation, the time and effort they've put in. It was great just speaking with Hans last night. He sent us all a message, hey, get out there and crush it today, which is great news. And that's exactly what we want to do. Well, I mean, we're always motivated to get results, but now more than ever.
So today we are scheduled for 2 fleet races. The entire fleet will be battling it out, and then the top 3 will compete in the event final. Remember, it's 10 points for first place and 1 point for last. Right now it's time for the course map with Stevie Morrison.
Well, here we are for day 2 in Taranto, and let's take a look at the race course the sailors will have. It's going to need a good start to lead at Mark 1, and then after there, the crews can sail their own course, trying to find the shortest time between gates. At each gate, they can turn left or right. Sailing boats go fastest when they sail an angle to the wind, so we see them zigzagging their way around the course, trying to find a tactical advantage. It's a tight course here today, steady wind, so it's a real street fighters race. Expect close action and real fighting to finish first in front of the fans on the shoreline.
And everyone looking for a premium spot to watch the world's best compete here in Taranto. This is day number 2 of the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix Taranto, and we've got 2 more fleet races, then the field will be cut for only the top 3 competing in the event final. So 1 minute to go, Emily Nagel, where would you like to be on the course?
I'm going to be head out of the boat looking for breeze wherever I can find it. It is light out there today, and it's going to be gusty and shifty. So it's going to be all on for the strategists today, finding any little breeze they can.
Well, and here we go. We can see a slight change in tempo from yesterday's high wind. Bottom of the screen, we saw the wind arrow there. It's light winds out there at the moment, just 12, 13 kilometres an hour. And this pre-start, well, it's happening early. That positioning, it's all a little bit slower. It's a preordained parade to the line. And if you're not on the front row right now, you're going to struggle to accelerate your F50. USA out the back, struggling from here. France, they're looking well lined up. There's our blue pole position. Should give us the shortest time to Mark 1. But Canada have got the best speed in the middle of the line. We've got 7 seconds to go. It's a case of getting your timing right here. You're backing off before the line turns white. Wow! Everyone way early.
The umpires, early start penalty, Germany, Canada, France, Switzerland, Denmark. One delayed starter, USA.
Wow, that means all 5 boats need to drop back behind the other boats other than the USA before Mark 1. Well, that's bad news for those teams, but it's fantastic news for Australia and Spain. They're going to be leading at Mark 1, and in these light conditions, the turbulent, disturbed air off the 24-metre wing sails we have is going to be huge. If you get stuck at the back of the pack today, it's going to be a long, long job to get catching up for Tom Slingsby. Here he goes. Can they get this Australian boat up on the foils? They have.
And
here we
Stevie,
go. Big game.
It might have been easier, Stevie, for Chief Umpire Craig Mitchell to list those who didn't get a penalty, because it was almost the entire fleet as they enter mark number 1, and it is the Australians. Remember, they won 2 races yesterday, winning races 1 and 2, and they are back to their old ways with Spain sitting in second. We're fortunate enough to have Peter Burling, the driver from New Zealand. They are not racing this weekend because of the damage that took place in Saint-Tropez. Olympic gold medalist, 2-time America's Cup champion. Peter, great to have you with us. What are you seeing out there, and with these conditions, did everyone just take too much of a risk at that start?
Yeah, well, I think it just shows you how important the start is in that light air, and everyone getting a little bit too excited. So, yeah, it was really impressive to see the lured into the line with obviously the Australians and the Spanish getting off well. But, you know, I haven't seen, it's been a while since I've seen that many boats over for sure.
What's going to be really interesting here, though, is that the battle for the final at the moment isn't really happening at the front of the fleet. The Aussies and the Brits have almost secured a position there, but it's the boats towards the back of the fleet, the French, the Canadians and Danish, that are fighting out for that 3rd spot in the final.
And right now, let's go down to the 5th member of our broadcast team down on the water, Olympic silver medalist, Lisa Darman. And Lisa, much different conditions than we saw yesterday.
It's a completely different day out here, Todd. It's really difficult, and I kind of like that. You had extreme conditions yesterday, and it's all about, you know, finesse and patience today. The wind is pushing in a little bit, which is good news. That's why we've seen some of the teams foil, but it's almost impossible to execute a foiling manoeuvre here. To me, what it looks like is the teams will take a left turn. They'll take their medicine and they'll head out to the right-hand side of the course, away from the shoreline. They'll attack and try and find some pressure offshore. That's where I'm seeing all the wind at the moment.
Well, and as Lisa speaks there, Todd, we can see the Australians have chosen to turn one more time. They're going to try and turn right at the bottom. Spain, nice positioning, turning into a real light wind specialist on board that Spanish boat. They're going left turn. And I think in these conditions, every time you make a manoeuvre, it's a guaranteed loss of a lot of distance. So that doesn't mean you don't make a manoeuvre, you've got to, but you need to be really certain in your manoeuvres. Spain clearly trying to keep things simple, keep things smooth, and they're going to take a left turn as we see Emirates, Great Britain dive inside Australia, and that perfect start from Australia. Well, they're slow, they're nearly stopped in the water now, and it's going to take a long time to build speed from here. Good news for Emirates, and in the background, great news for the United States. Out there, they'll be racing hard today, we know that, but they've gone from a very poor start up to second. It's showing on our graphic at the moment. Long race here today, and apologies for a bit of strong language there on board that. These light conditions, well, I think it's hugely frustrating when it's this light, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks incredibly tough, doesn't it? You know, the Aussies obviously got off to a great start. Probably pushed getting the H1 a little bit too long out of that jibe, and then obviously lost a couple of boats for it. So it was impressive to see the way the Spanish put that run together, and now should have some clear air out on the right on the speed to continue to lead at the top, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the important things when Pete talks about H1. Of course, the boats we can see at the moment, they're not foiling, so they've got 2 hulls. If they can lift one of the hulls up out the water, make the boat heel over a bit, you half the drag effectively, and minimising drag's the absolute key to making these boats go faster. So how do you do that? Well, you try and find more wind, and at the moment, we can see there's not a lot of wind on the course, so our speeds are pretty low, Emily.
Yeah, we're at 18 kilometres an hour. That's about 10 knots currently, which isn't much faster than your standard dinghy, but they are pushing to build speed here. Spanish starting to inch over 20k an hour.
I know a lot of people talk about Nathan Outeridge on board the Swiss SailGP team as the wind whisperer, but it was Peter Burling and the Kiwis that got it done in Chicago in similar conditions. Pete, I was going to ask you, is this kind of like a nightmare scenario for you, but you guys managed to make it work in Chicago?
Yeah, well, this is obviously a little bit windier than we had in Chicago with, you know, people flying a hull. You know, Chicago was, I think, the lightest racing we've ever done, but yeah, for our team, we obviously feel really comfortable in these light air conditions. It's really tricky. And yeah, it's quite interesting actually watching the lead changes here. And obviously incredibly close between these top three for the lead at the top mark. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, really interesting. At the bottom of our screen, we can see the big movers so far, United States, and of course, all our wishes at SailGP are with Hans Henken and his family for a fast recovery. But on board, they've brought in Taylor Canfield. He sailed with the US team in season 1. I'm not sure if he's actually on board in this setup where they've got Mag Agnes. They've decided to take the flight controller off because we've got 4 people on board. And Pete, how does that change the dynamic? Is that something you practice for a lot, or is this really quite a rough change?
You definitely have to deal with it. We obviously do it more and more in these lighter conditions, and it does make a big difference to how quickly the boat takes off. And it's quite interesting to see. Every team has their own strategy as to who they take off, where they go. You know, we actually keep our flight controller on, but make him do a lot more grinding. It obviously loads up your strategist a lot more than normal. So.
Come on then, Pete. You talked a little bit. We've got you here. Give us some secrets. What is the number we want to look for where these boats are going to take off?
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting. The lighter it gets, the quicker you actually have to go to take off. So, yeah, I think if it's this light, you're probably wanting to see 30 plus on the top of the wing to actually see the boats get up in the air.
Everyone keeping an eye on standings, and right now it's Spain, Great Britain, USA, Australia, the top 4, Emily. Everyone's going to warn about the numbers, and coming into today, it was Great Britain and Australia top the leaderboard. Remember, you've got to be in the top 3 to make the event final. So how's it looking right now, Emily, and who's on the bubble?
Well, not a huge amount has changed there, with GBR and Australia still leading the way. It's good news for the French at the moment. They're currently sat in 5th in this race, which would see them with 30 points going through, but still all to play for at the back of the fleet. If the Danish gain a few positions, they will seriously be challenging the French for that position.
Stevie, are there teams that you think would excel in these kind of conditions that could possibly do well in these last 2 fleet races and get into the final?
I think the Spanish have showed us so far in season 4 that they're one of the top teams in this light condition. The British, I mean, you just can't look past the British confidence levels. Right. I mean, it's been a long time coming since they won an event. Of course, that happened in Saint-Tropez at our last event. And now suddenly here they are, they're back, they're showing us having some really good form. So I think the British look good. I've got to be honest, I'm surprised with the Canadians. For me, they needed 2 top 3s and they'd have been a serious challenger for this final, but back in 9th, pretty much a disastrous first race, could end their hopes of making the final today.
Prix currently showing very up and down on either side of the course, anywhere from 15 to 18 kilometers an hour. The British currently bottom of the screen, they're in a little bit less breeze. Spanish up on the foils ripping.
As they make their way down the course now, this will be interesting to see if we get any kind of wind. There you see it at the top, 13.5 kilometers an hour. We go down on the water, Lisa Darman. And Lisa, what are you seeing as far as a forecast? Is the wind going to be building throughout the day?
Okay.
Well, the wind is meant to build, but we have a lot of cloud activity around. So when the boats got out here, they were all foiling. The clouds moved over, and it's dampened the breeze. So we've got fingers crossed that it will pick up later. But you know, the Spanish and the USA, they really picked that well. It's about staying in the pressure. It's getting quite patchy out here, and it's about choosing when you're doing your maneuvers. It is going to be painful, but you just got to do it at the best time possible. And I think Pete would know all about that.
Yes. One and in, do you think?
Well, come on, definitely a situation where you want to make your points on day 1 because you don't know if Mother Nature's going to shut things off on day 2.
Yeah, it looks incredibly puffy out there as well. You know, Emily said before, obviously the Spanish got a really good puff out of their top mark, forward all the way to the boundary, and now you're seeing them back in H2 coming back across, and you know, I'm sure it's going to be the British's time here in a sec. Yeah, you see them over 30 now on the top of the wing, so yeah, you'd be expecting them to take off here, hopefully get a little more down the ladder rung, and yeah, it's definitely out of those top four in anyone's game still at this stage.
And of course, I think, we see here the boats are all moving in different directions, but ultimately the whole thing is about making progress down our ladder lines. We can see the ladder lines on the course. We're trying to progress from right to left across the screen, but you can't go straight down. A sailing boat just will not go straight downwind very efficiently. It'll get there, it'll blow down there slowly, but they're trying to go as fast as possible, and we can see the British up and foiling. They've minimised the drag on the whole boat here. They've got a lot of power into that big wing sail, and suddenly, as soon as you start moving fast, you make your own wind, and that progress, look at the gain they've made here. They're sailing nearly straight down the ladder lines. The boat's going slower. The Spanish, the USA, well, they're nearly sailing across the parallel to those ladder lines. They're not progressing towards the next gate. Can USA make a move back up towards this British boat? The British are off the foils, and we know now they're going to struggle to build speed from here.
Not far from the finish line as Emirates GBR make that maneuver. Pete, I got to ask you quickly before this race ends, how do you determine who gets on the boat when they drop down in light winds to 4 people on board?
Yeah, it's just every team has their own strategy as to how they want to deal with it. Obviously, the Aussies have done it like the US the whole time, where they keep their G2 on board and take the flight controller off, and a lot of other teams do it differently, like what you see on the British here, where they keep the flight controller on. But actually put them into a grinding position. So everyone kind of skins it a slightly different way, but essentially it does put a lot more load on everyone on board, and that's the tricky part in this light air, is really making sure you do a good job getting your head out of the boat and make some good decisions, which we can obviously see the British have to get the lead they have right now.
Is there any thought to how much people weigh? Do you say, oh my gosh, we got to lighten the boat up, you're a few kilos less than this guy you're on?
To be honest, not. You definitely want enough power in the grinding position. You still need to move that wing sheet a lot, especially when you're in the takeoffs. So, I think that comes into consideration a little bit, but just determines, I suppose, what people feel more comfortable with. And people have had a lot of time sailing in this 4-up configuration now, so I think it's just whatever pathway you've gone down, you're kind of committed to.
Well, the final gate has come, and it is Emirates GBR that make the slow turn to the right, and the finish line will just be a few hundred meters in front of them. So it looks like they're going to claim the win here in race number 4, and that will go along with 2 second-place finishes on day number 1 and a 3rd. So they are prime, Stevie. I got to think, as they crawl to the finish line, that they have pretty much punched their ticket with this win.
I think so, yes. I mean, yesterday they were so consistent. The British and the Australians had a fantastic first day, and here they come. They're going to take the first win on Championship Sunday here in Taranto, and a brilliant result for Ben Ainsley. Picked himself out from a pretty mediocre start, but they found their way through, got themselves a little bit more foil time than some of the other teams, and, well, it's a good first race. I think, yeah, for the British, probably the Australians, after such a strong first day with this 4th place as Australia sit at the moment, should be well positioned. Interesting one for me. Light wind specialists. We have to say they're a light wind specialist now. This Spanish team had a disappointing day one. Going to be really interested to see where they end up on the points after this result. Will they have a chance if they can get another top position at the end of the day? Can the Spanish challenge the podium? That's going to be, I think, the big question after this race.
So it's Emirates GBR that get the win in race number 4 here in Taranto. And now the battle is on for 2nd place, and it looks like the Spanish have got the momentum. Not quite ready to foil yet as their speed continues to climb at 23 kilometers an hour, and the Americans are going to have to make one more maneuver, so that should give the Spanish 2nd place. The Americans should hold on for 3rd.
I think one thing we should all remember here, top left of the screen, we can see there, that's the race elapsed time. It's coming up to 13 minutes. We've got 16 minutes is our time limit here. So for any of the teams wanting to make the finish, if they don't make the finish in that 16-minute time limit, their result will be taken from the last gate they managed to get round. So everyone will get a finish, but if you want to make any gains on this last leg count, you've got to get to that next gate or the finish line within 16 minutes. So keep your eyes peeled to the top left of the screen as this race progresses.
So as we approach the 4-minute cutoff barrier, it is Spain, the winners of the Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. Diego Botín and company come across in 2nd place, well behind Ben Ainsley, almost 2 minutes back of the British squad that get the win here in race number 4. So Emily, continue to crunch the numbers now with Stevie's thought in mind. It's going to be interesting to see how these points play out. Looks like the Americans are going to make it underneath that 16 minutes.
Yeah, the Americans will make it to the finish here, but unfortunately that doesn't help them hugely on the overall leaderboard and getting into the final. So far with the results, we would see GBR in Australia almost certainly make this final, regardless of how the 5th race goes. But there is still a great battle to be played between the French and the Danish, who will only be 3 points apart currently.
Germany and Australia now battling for 4th.
Yeah, I mean, that was an awesome run from Germany, wasn't it? They really picked up a fair few boats through the middle there and did a great job getting through to 4th. And it'll definitely be a little bit interesting to see how the Australians bounce back from this one.
As Germany comes across the line in 4th place, it'll be Australia getting 5th. And they cross the line top 5 under the mark of 16 minutes as we go down on the water as the race finishes up with 16 minutes being the barrier. And we join Ben Ainsley on board Emirates Great Britain and his squad. Just 4 people on board today. Ben, completely different conditions than what we saw yesterday. How did you guys prepare for this light wind situation?
Oh, you're right. It's like chalk and cheese, isn't it? And totally different day. Four on board the boat, so hard for Hannah in particular. She's getting pretty physical in the pumps as well as trying to call the breeze. And we're all kind of multitasking that much more. So, yeah, tricky day, but managed to get through a difficult start and feed our way around the course in good shape.
And Ben, out there, how easy to read is this breeze? We saw you manage to get on the foils, and that was kind of nearly a 350, 400-metre gain. Is it all about sort of being in the right place at the right time, or have you got some way of actually predicting that and putting yourself in a place that you know will be the right place?
It's tough. It is really tough. The pressure's kind of all over the place. Some of it's fast-moving, some of it's slow-moving, and so all you can do is kind of put your boat in what you think is the best spot and yeah, hope for the best a little bit.
Hannah, Ben, appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you guys racing in race number 5, and you look pretty. Also, a few more races for you as we look forward to race number 5, which is coming up, and what a performance as Emirates GBR do what they need to do to back up what they did on day number 1 with a second, and a 3rd. So take a look at this. It is now Emirates GBR with a 4-point lead over the Aussies, 36-32. France still holding down 3rd place with 28, 3 points clear of Denmark, who had a disastrous race number 4, and the race on for that top 3 finish in the event final.
Well, here we go. Of course, we got some key moments here on this. Tell us, treading it.
So we've got here all the different angles the boats are saying, so showing just how hard it is to build speed. The maneuvers are crucial and slow the boats down to the point where they're having to sail parallel to the ladder lines in order to build that speed and get going fast. Once they've built speed, they can then turn down, like we've seen Australia do there, creating these huge zigzags all across the course.
Well, and I think what we just saw is how important making those crucial manoeuvres are. And we see Emirates, Great Britain and Spain, they were the ones that were able to lead themselves out of a gate mark. And I think in this light winds, if you're ahead, you can sail in clear air. That clear air means you can go faster, it's a lot less turbulent, and you got that little chance to get up on the foils. Britain here, they managed to find an early loss, got on the foils, and it was suddenly a big gain that they converted to the win. So the devil's in the detail, really. It's those small little details that get the fans dancing.
Everyone excited in Italy. It is Championship Sunday at the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix, and we've got one more fleet race to go. Who will solidify their spot in the event final? We're about to find out.
Well, yesterday the heart rate was up because it was just so intense weather-wise, but today the heart rate is up because you just kind of don't know what's going to happen. And I think when the boats are foiling, not foiling, that is just way more stressful. I know from my own foiling sailing, if you're down in front and you're not foiling and you look back and another team's coming, it's so stressful. So I'm sure that was happening a lot on the Spanish when they were dead in the water and they saw Great Britain pop up on the foils. But I guess what that race just told us, it is all about speed. But to get that speed, you've got to be super patient. I think that it's all about the timing of the maneuvers. So if you're up and ripping, that's fine. But you've really got to plan ahead and know, okay, well, we're going to have to do 2 more maneuvers. When are we going to do them? Because we have to try get to the next bit of pressure. So when I talk about that, it's about seeing those dark patches on the water and linking them all together. So you're thinking, 4 or 5 minutes ahead in a race. I think Great Britain really showed why they won the last event in Saint-Tropez. It was quite light and shifty there, and I think the combination of Ben and Hannah on the back of that boat is just top notch, and they know really when to push that boat. The big losers, unfortunately, in that race was Australia. They were leading at Mark 1 and they were foiling, but they had a really bad first gate rounding, being super slow, and they ended up dropping back to 5th in the end, I think. So, or maybe it was 4th, but still, if you're leading, that's not where you want to be. And going into a final as well, you want to make sure that you're doing well in light wind, because the tough news is it's not going to get that much windier. Right now, from what I can see, it has picked up a little bit. We should see a little bit more foiling downwind, but we're not going to see any spectacular breezes. But to me, that racing is still super interesting. Obviously, GB are sailing really well, Australia sailing well, and I really can't wait to see this battle for third, because unfortunately for the backmarkers, it wasn't their best event, wasn't the best race for the French. But for us at home watching, and for me watching out here, it's super exciting, because anything can happen for that top 3, that last berth. And so don't go anywhere, because it's going to be a great one.
Back in Taranto, Championship Sunday here, Event 4, Season 4. This is the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix. Alongside Stevie Morrison, Emily Nagel, Lisa Darmanin, and Peter Burling, I'm Todd Harris. Glad to have you with us on a beautiful day. A little more wind would be appreciated. And the 2 C's here in Taranto. What a beautiful setting here for the 4th event of Season 4 here in beautiful Italy. The ocean is our racetrack, and at SailGP, we work with host cities and partners to deliver impact projects with local conservation organizations which support improving the health of our oceans. Here in Italy, ROCKWOOL's project focuses on improving the marine ecosystem. The stunning waters of Taranto are known as a special living eco-museum, and ROCKWOOL and the Danish SailGP team have collaborated with the University of Bari and the One Ocean Foundation to help seahorses thrive in these waters.
We decided to host SailGP because there's a particular attention to the quality of seawater. We have a great settlement of seahorses that are a particular tester for the quality of sea life.
L'Università di Bari ci ha allertato che la popolazione di cavallucci marini, che è così importante nel Mar Piccolo di Taranto, è in una fase critica.
So the idea was to create a house for them, and that is naturally when ROCKWOOL comes in. We build houses for people outside the water, so why not to try to build a house for seahorses underneath the water? Some spaces where the seahorses can thrive.
This is the first time that we are trying to use a material which is usable for this kind of habitat. It's very important that the project will last for at least 2 years. It's a period that covers 2 reproductive periods of seahorses. So we want to understand if the structure will be used by juveniles, by the adults, or they are used to reproduce.
ROCKWOOL can use the partner One Ocean Foundation to put a project like this in the sea and use SailGP as a vehicle. So it's actually a collaboration between multiple partners. It's super cool that we come here with SailGP and make a difference in a new place.
And down on the waters, for race number 5, we have Nikolaj Sehested and ROCKWOOL Denmark SailGP. Nikolaj, you guys won race number 3. You bounced back in race number 4 with not the decision that you wanted. What are you going to have to do in race number 5 to possibly get yourself in that event final?
Oh, it's pretty simple, to be honest. We just got to win the race, and then hopefully France have a bad race. That's the cards right now, so that's all we can do.
How are you finding the conditions out there? Obviously much different than yesterday.
Yeah, very tricky. It's a minefield, so we just got to try to see if we can pick a good way through the race course this one and get a bit more breeze than some of the other boats.
Nikolai, we appreciate your time, and we wish you the best of luck in race number 5. All right, before we go racing, race number 5, the final fleet race of the day. We check in down on the water for the first-hand account of what's going on. Here is Lisa Darmanin.
Oh, it looks so difficult out here, Todd. I'll tell you, it is light. There are those little puffs, but I know Hannah said you've got to put your boat in the best position possible, but trying to predict where that's coming from, it's really difficult. For me, still getting away from the seawall, away from the crowds, is where the best pressure is, but it's really taking that opportunity to pop on the foils and know when that is. So you might have to burn a little bit of distance to get up on the foils. We're going to see that on the downwinds, but it's going to be really hard, and I think we've seen anything can happen out here, and it might be better to be lucky than good.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. More from you with this fleet race and the event final still to come as we approach 2 minutes to go before the start. Emily, I'll start with you with the conditions as Lisa has described them and what we know from Peter Burley and his experience. Where do you think is going to be the best spot, the sweet spot to get a good start here in these light winds?
Normally in these conditions, you're looking to pick one end of the line or the other, try and have a bit of space from the other boat where possible, because as Stevie has mentioned, the dirty air, that turbulent breeze generated by the wings of the other boat will kill you, and you need to get that hull flying as soon as you can to build speed.
Pete, I think you're famous for a sort of a start where you like to have a bit of a run-up, come charging through. That just, I guess, won't work as well in these conditions.
Yeah, well, just there's so much bad air from the boats that it's incredibly hard to get through that lineup. So, yeah, I think you'll see a lot of people more just lining up conventionally in the train. And, yeah, it looks like the Aussies have taken a little higher road this time. The French are obviously right down the bottom. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get a clean start away. And no, but I'd definitely like that windward end, trying to go fast. You saw how much being gained on that left-hand side looking up last time. So huge gains there.
And we can see, just as Pete says that, Ben turns in front trying to block that option.
Under a minute to go before the start of race number 5. This is the final fleet race before the field is cut, and only the top 3 will race in the event final. And we've got a good one. Despite the light wind, Stevie, this is going to be a very critical race, very technical.
Well, it's a key moment here. We can see Australia, Tom Slingsby aggressively pushing down and crossed in front of ROCKWOOL Denmark, and now the Danish are going to have a job to re-accelerate. We can see them towards the bottom of our screen. Australia and Germany look well positioned at the moment, but there we go, a last-minute move from Australia. Every time you turn the boat aggressively, when you have both hulls in the water, they're going to slow up a lot. It's all about who can line themselves up, who can get a straight run into the start. We can see the favourite position, according to our analytics, is the middle of the line. USA are well lined up, but they look a little bit early to me in the middle there. They may need to kill some speed. Germany well positioned, Canada well positioned. It's all about timing now. Here they come. Watch for the line to turn white. We go. Perfect from the USA in the end there. Jimmy Spithill called it absolutely spot on. They're going to have to build speed from here. If any boat can get on the foils, they're going to fly away from the fleet. But right now, Germany, USA and France are in pole position, and Switzerland and Australia are out the back. Disappointing for ROCKWOOL Denmark at the moment. They're going to need to make something happen if they're going to hope to make this grand final.
Yeah, from Nikolai Stestedt, he basically said we have to win this race. We are not racing in it. The Americans have a great position. Germany on the outside, on board is in first place. Great to see that win. And the rest of the fleet now just trying to figure this one out. So, Pete, I asked you, yesterday we had the high wind, exciting and moving, but there's still a lot of tension on board, even though they're going extremely slow for what these F-50s can do.
Yeah, I think it's even more stressful on the slide air. The decisions really get accentuated if you get make a good or a bad one. You can gain half the fleet. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this all pans out. Obviously, France got away pretty nicely in that one, so they're doing a good job to try and secure that last spot in the final. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this little bit plays out soon.
Well, there we are, Mark 1, and it's the Germans from the top of the line. Of course, they're back out. Interesting, different configuration today. So we saw that situation where they broke a board, unfortunately, yesterday, but we're on the bigger light wind boards. More lift helps the boat fly a little bit easier if you can get up to speed to do that. And Germany, well, what a great position for them, leading at Mark 1. France are in the pack. We know at the moment they sit in third place. They're hanging on to that podium position, but they'll be watching the United States because Jimmy Spittill's managed to get that US boat back into the fight for the final here. They need to make a top 3 desperately, and they'll need to overtake Germany.
So it's critical here to look at the number of points that the French have. 36 currently with a third position. That's only 4 points ahead of the USA, who currently are in second. So the French really need to keep that pack of Swiss, Canadians and Australians behind them.
There's a long time ago, but I remember when you are in that position like the French, just ahead of a pack in the light wind, this next decision for them could be crucial, Pete.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty tricky when you're sitting right in front of a big pack, and you'd almost prefer to be, say, where Ben Ainsley is there and the British right at the back, then you get the opportunity to drive down the inside, make some good gains. But yeah, it'll be, they look like they're doing a nice job at the moment and holding in that third position, but it's going to be a lot to play for coming into the bottom marks.
And do you think right now they're going to desperately try and minimise the manoeuvres down here, or are they going to be positioning themselves for wind? What do you reckon's their top priority right now?
I think, yeah, the manoeuvres are incredibly costly downwind in the slight air, so they'll definitely be trying to minimise those, get the boat in clear air. They've obviously committed to that low road pretty early on, so yeah, you can see them just rolling into a drive just above the Americans here, and then they'll have the option to turn at the bottom. So yeah, it's all to play for here. Obviously, little slow viewing for the viewers out there, but it's pretty stressful on board in these conditions, I can tell you.
I feel like it's really a fairly tactical chess game out there at the moment. It's happening slow pace, but you can perhaps see those manoeuvres ahead of you. And kind of nice to hear Eric Heil and Stuart Biffle on board the German boat there. They're talking it out and trying to play this game, but we can see all the boats have dropped in there, no hulls flying, 2 hulls in the water. H2 is what you'll hear the sailors call it. And what they're doing there is they're just saying, well, we don't know if we can get going fast, so let's do what we know we can do, which is minimise distance, take a closer angle to the mark, maybe go a little bit slower, but let's get down on the water. Lisa, have you got any opinion out of this gate? Where are they going to find the best wind, left or right?
I think the Germans are prioritising minimising manoeuvres and turning left here, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think that we saw the Spanish did quite well like that in the previous race, and I think most teams are planning on doing that. One thing that I can see is Denmark are playing high risk. They're just going completely opposite direction, hoping to get on the foils and catch this pack. But you know, as Pete was saying, sometimes it's better when you're at the back of the fleet because you're trying to read the wind, but the best wind readers are actually looking at what the other boats are doing and seeing what mode they're in, and that indicates how much pressure they've found around the racetrack. But we're going to see a split here between Germany and USA, it seems.
Turning back now, Eric.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa, as we see the Germans now make the slow progression around that gate, and we'll see what happens. But the Americans have decided, it looks like, to split the course. So what we will have to keep an eye on is the point situation. You've got Australia, Great Britain, and France locked into those positions right now, but the Americans still with a possibility, and it'll be interesting to see if the Americans get the win here. If France finishes way down the board, they're currently in second, but if they were to fall off and finish way down the board, that could push the Americans through into that event final.
Let's get some flow. We've just got to get some flow and get moving.
And there are the 4 protagonists right now. You've got the Australians, Emirates GBR, the USA, and France, all trying to work themselves in. Remember, only the top 3 teams on points will make it into the event final.
I think what's really interesting is these onboard views are fantastic. We can see Hannah Mills there standing up, and I think what you do as a sailor in this light wind is you're trying to stand up and be as elevated as possible, because the more stood up you are, the further upwind you can see. And as we said, the decisions need to be made a lot earlier. They're a lot of a harder decision. You get less choices to make on a day like this, and that little bit of elevation means they should be able to see the wind a bit better, Pete. Is that the game they're playing?
Yeah, for sure, and you've got a lot more time to make your decisions as well, which I think is why it's stressful when you're on board as a sailor. You know, you've got a lot of time to make a quite critical decision, and then you have to play that out over an incredibly long period of time. So yeah, it's been a really good run for the British there. You can see them up into 4th now, so I think that just showed, you know, if you get the opportunities from the back to get that early jibe into clear air, you really do have some good opportunities to pass. But yeah, right now for the final, obviously the French are just hanging in second, going just nicely, so doing a good job of securing that 3rd spot at the moment.
This is leg 3 of 5, the final fleet race here at the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix in Taranto. The Americans may come up just short. Stevie, this can be a situation where they're really going to be frustrated on what they did on day number 1, with a 4th place in race number 1 and a 6th in race number 2 before the Hans Henken incident in race number 3. So, as we always say, you can't win the regatta on day number 1, but you can certainly throw your chances away.
I think consistency in this fleet is so difficult to find, and what we saw yesterday in the windier conditions, Pete mentioned it yesterday to anyone that wasn't watching, you've got more options of the angles you can sail. The sailors call it modes that you can sail. You've got more options. In this light winds, there's only really one angle to sail, and if you're behind someone in turbulent wind, you've just got no option to overtake. So the start becomes much more critical. To be consistent becomes a lot harder. And well, Jimmy here and the US team doing themselves proud in this final race. It's a nice lead, showing on our ladder lines as nearly 100 metres ahead, but more importantly, they're sailing parallel to that yellow line. That yellow line's what we call the ley line, means they should be able to make it up to gate 3 with no more manoeuvres. And as Pete said, we do not want to be manoeuvring if we don't have to.
Yeah, for the past couple minutes, we had seen that there had been more breeze at the bottom of the course where the Germans are, but now, just on that ley line where the Americans are, they've got a gust of wind. They're at over 13 km/h of wind speed and got some speed H1 mode, while the Germans looking quite slow, 11 km/h.
And Pete, is there anything we can see 2 of the boats here, they're leading over there, H1, Great Britain and the USA have got one hull out, they're going faster because they've got a lot less drag. Is there anything you can do to promote that, or is it purely finding more wind?
It's using more wind, but you can also take a bit of a loss to do it. You sail further away from the breeze, and you can see how they've got a couple of the crew on the leeward side of the yacht as well, so the downhill side for when you actually are up in H1. So there's a lot of little technique things you use. You hear them talk about the rudder differentials at times. I'm sure none of them will have any diff, as we call it, at the moment, just to really unload the wing and promote that H1 mode like you see on the screen right now with the Americans. But yeah, going downwind at the moment, obviously H2 will definitely be your mode, so you just see them dropping in and setting up for quite a slow run. But yeah, I think the Germans will be kicking themselves for not taking that right turn at the bottom. They did such a good job at the start, and out of that first jibe getting foiling, but yeah, obviously missed that opportunity.
So it's one more downwind leg and then the right turn to the finish line, and there it is. That's how it stands right now, Emily, and the Americans look like they may come up just a few points short.
Yeah, it's France's to lose at the moment, though, currently looking a little bit parked at that top gate, hoping they can build some speed quickly before the boats behind catch, but currently looking pretty good to be getting into that final.
I think what we can see now is the wind has turned around slightly to the left of the course. It's moved towards coming out of the top left corner of our screen. So right now, the French aren't progressing too well up the course, but they should turn onto a decent angle downwind, and that could be a good side in the long term. So I think they might have made a little bit of a loss here, but it could turn into a gain over the long term down this downwind leg, because Australia, showing in 6th toward the top of our screen, they're well lined up there for gate 3, and they were right at the back of the pack, and they've potentially jumped up, showing as 6th, but I think they could be potentially challenging for as high as 4th at the moment here. It's going to be really tight in the pack. But yeah, crucial moments for France here. If they can re-accelerate, they're going to be well set to get back in a final. And well, for me, they really need a big result here. This early on in season 4, it's crucial points for them if they want to be challenging to get to San Francisco at the end of the season.
Never a bad time to go down on the water. And Lisa, man, and Lisa, as we look forward to the event final, the top 3, are you seeing anything on your technology that will give you an idea that there might be more breeze building for that final race?
The clouds are moving over. It looks pretty similar, to be completely honest with you, but it's super patchy. So what we saw there was a big left shift, which meant that the USA team, they had pressure and angle. The Germans and the British, they got pressure, but they got it just too late. So it's really about what you have at the time, and it's not going to be the same as it is now as it will be in the final. So they're going to have to be super adaptable out here. But yeah, if anything, it's probably died off a bit because we're not seeing any foiling downwind at this stage, unfortunately.
I think something I remember from these kind of races, Pete, is in this light winds, if you make a mistake, the key thing's not to compound it by making another mistake. How do you keep yourself calm in these things? Is that having a pre-made plan, or is it just actually being able to be realistic and accept a bad decision when it happens?
Yeah, I think you've definitely got to be able to accept what's happened and move on pretty quickly, and that's right throughout sailing, not just in these boats. You're not going to make every decision right throughout a day, and it's the boat that wins is generally the one that's made more correct decisions than someone else. So you've got to be able to park those decisions and just move on and win the little battles you're in. And we can definitely see a pretty tight one here with the British obviously doing such an amazing job up there, B, but now getting rolled by the Spanish down this run. So there's plenty to play for here, and although the boats are going a little bit slower, they're it makes your decisions on board even harder just because you don't quite know where the breeze is. I think you see the boats gaining and losing as well because, a small increase or decrease in breeze is a huge difference in the amount of thrust you get. So you really get some big speed differentials out there and makes it life pretty interesting. But it's been interesting to see the USA lay in as well. So I think we're seeing, Great Britain and Spain probably making a pass on France here.
That worked out well.
So the race continues on here in race number 5. Sorry about that, Stevie. As we take a look at the numbers, and it's not getting any better for the Americans, despite the fact that they are going to win this race. And a tremendous performance for them, but it's going to be a case of just a little too late.
We can see Erica there working hard on the handles. We can see it's a full job share on board. That is the US fans on the shore. They look happy. Rosé and flags and a race win. That's a great way to bring things home for the US team at the end of a challenging weekend.
So race number 5 goes the way of the Americans here at the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix in Taranto. The Americans get it done. They save their best for last.
What an awesome result for them. They've had an absolutely amazing day. Obviously, spent a lot of time in the hospital during the evening, supporting their teammates. But to be able to bounce back like that, I mean, that's just a massive respect from us.
And back at the bottom gate now, we're seeing Pete's prediction coming true. The British and Spanish do appear to be overtaking the French team straight into the gate here to the finish.
It's almost like you've done a bit of this boat racing, Pete. Called that overtake a little bit early there. But we see on top left, I'm going to just draw everyone's eye back to that. 13 minutes, another one going to be challenging on the clock. So the great team are going to want to get to the finish because this second will be an amazing result for them. As we see Australia showing in 4th at the moment, I think they're pretty well set for a place in the final, but they won't want to lose too many more places on that Australian boat. So important few moments for them as Great Britain turn towards the finish at a light wind Masters Spain. They're up there again and got to keep things moving slowly as they can.
Well, I think the interesting thing here is the race is really still on for that final position. If Australia get France here, 5 boats and the US would be through from my maths. So yeah, all go.
Yeah, your maths are correct. The French have to stay in this position right now if they want a chance of that final. Lose one more place and
Canada's in the frame as well. So yeah, it's
all to play for.
Who would have thought from a few seconds ago when we thought it was all done and dusted for the French getting through to plenty to play for.
Here we go, tight moment we see here. The French have crossed Australia. They should be okay, but their angle towards this next turning mark is going to be slower than Canada's from there. Canada could play spoiler here. Tight moment. It's going to be tense on board the French boat. Listening on the comms, look at this Canadian boat. It's all happening fairly slowly, but it's happening faster on the Canadian boat right now. Look out. Right of way is with France. They're entitled to room at the mark. However, they're going slow, and they need to be able to block the Canadian boat. It's going to come very, very tight. Look at this moment here. It's really close. Canada looks like they're going to sneak round the front. A huge moment coming here. This is massive for the event. Canada around, Canada up to 4th, France in 5th. It's going to be so close to see these results if Canada can keep the speed on here. The French, wow, what a big moment.
And they've got 1 minute to get to that finish line. Remember, the race will be terminated at 16 minutes, which means Canada's passing of France will not come into play. And right now, the French are still in a world of hurt as the Aussies pull next to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's just one more boat here to get past France, and they're out. So all to play for, 30 seconds to go. It'll be interesting to see actually who got across that bottom gate first, because I think the gate's quite biased as well. So plenty to play out in this still.
Oh, here we go. It's so tight. 20 seconds to go. Australia, can they get to the finish line here? 14 seconds. It's going to be Australia or Germany, but it's going to be so close. We're going to need to get confirmation of who rounded the gate when. Our race to the final shows USA. Results suggest that the USA have done enough. That would be massive.
Are they going to make
look
it?
At this. Look at this.
Oh, no.
It was ahead of the gate.
Oh, it was ahead of the gate. I think the Germans got through the gate, but we're going to have to find out.
It's going to be a photo finish for this last spot, isn't it? Holy.
See, this
we're going to have to
stuff.
lean heavily. We're going to have to lean heavily on Peter Burling's math from New Zealand to see if this all works out, because what a finish. 16 minutes has come and gone. The winner of the race, we know, in fact, is USA SailGP. Jimmy Spittle, congratulations on a great win. You guys get it done for Hans Henken under difficult situations with just 4 people on board. Jimmy, can you hear us? We just want to get your take on how that race went for you.
Yeah, it was a great race. Probably frustrating at the finish there because it looked like the race terminated. If it had finished, then we would be going through to the final. So it was, yeah, a little bit bittersweet.
Well, Jimmy, we're still hanging out here. There's still a bit of confirmation to be done by Craig Mitchell and the umpire team to confirm exactly. It was literally millimetres in it at that final gate, so it's not all over for you yet. Pete Burling, maths suggested you were in it. It was a tight race. What a performance for your team on such a tricky day. Great comeback for you.
Yeah, it was a great comeback. I mean, obviously, I think yesterday was the hardest day the team's probably ever faced. So it was really good just to come out here and try and put some good races in. We got a message from Hans to just go out there and absolutely kill it. And so I think the team really took a lot from that and, yeah, used all that good energy.
Mate, it was an absolute photo finish on that last gate, so we're all fingers crossed here. You can get yourself through, but, yeah, from us in the commentary booth, massive congratulations on today.
Okay, well, we're hearing at the minute, Jimmy, that actually Germany got through that gate ahead of the French, so I think you might need to get the snacks in because you could have another race to do today and chance to turn things around in Taranto and get the ultimate result.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, look, I think we did everything we could today, so now we just wait and see, and, yeah, fingers crossed. If not, either way, great day, great bounce back from the team.
What a story it would be if the Americans, in fact, do go into the final. We are crunching the numbers, getting confirmation, and we will know that in just a moment. What an exciting way to finish the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix. Well, everyone gets into position, and we wait to find out to get a confirmation officially on who will be in the event final here in Taranto.
So we're here in Toronto, the sun is out, and we're right here in front of the fans, and it's been so exciting to be able to race in front of our Italian fans. So that was such an exciting second race of the day, really close. So we see that the US finished first, and that was enough to get them into the finals. So we're going into the final race, and we'll see Team Australia, GBR, and Team USA out in the finals. I'm really impressed with the Australians this weekend. I think they were able to get off the line really well, and obviously they proved that the windy conditions is their sort of stuff, and yeah, they were able to compete better than the rest. GBR, they had a really consistent 2 days. I think Hannah Mills will be doing a lot of strategy back with the team because it is a lot lighter today, and yeah, the strategy will be a lot different. So I think trying to sail the least amount of distance possible. It's great for the U.S. Unfortunate incident yesterday, but I think they're super stoked to be able to make this final because it's been a long time coming for them, and I'm really excited for my home team to be able to make this final. That's awesome. So we are here. Little weather update. It is getting lighter. There are a lot of clouds around. We're still on our 24-meter wing and our lighter boards, which means that the surface area on the main foil is larger, so we should be able to take off in lighter speeds. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be seeing that today, but the last race should be awesome. I think it'll be interesting to see which boats are sort of fighting it out with each other because the strategy for a 3-boat final, I think, is a lot different than a 10-boat fleet race. So I think if there is two boats fighting each other out, that would be the opportunity for the last boat to sweep in and take that win. So it should be awesome. Stay tuned. I'm going to head out and watch the race. It's going to be awesome.
Come back, Championship Sunday here. ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix Taranto. Alongside Stevie Morrison, Emily Nagel, Lisa Darman, and Peter Burling, I'm Todd Harris. Crunched, came down to the wire, and the teams that were making the event final will be this. The Americans do get in.
Hi, Todd. Sorry to interrupt. We're just having a little bit of problem with your comms at the moment, but there we see it. Official announcement, driver Jimmy Spittle. Well, he was very calm. He's been there, he's done it all. Look at those results, but he's in the final, and he's going to be up against, well, does he need any introduction? Maybe not. Three-time SailGP overall champion. He's won so many fleet races. He's won the America's Cup, Olympic gold medals. But can he do it here today in Taranto? And well, form. What does form mean? Form perhaps means everything, however good you are. 4 Olympic gold medals, but it's been a long time away from the top of the tree in SailGP. He was back at the last event in Saint-Tropez, and he's here again. It's going to be a big moment here.
So it is, in fact, U.S. squad that will make it in. Jimmy, we come down to you. Some good news, and you obviously that up. Put us on. You're going racing, my friend.
Hi, Jimmy. Sorry to interrupt, Todd. There, we've got a few issues with comms going on. Jimmy, you were very calm a moment ago. How's spirits on the boat right now? I mean, what a performance from your team today, and you're in the final. You can come away winning in Taranto here.
Yeah, I mean, look, great result so far, but, you know, the job's not done yet, so we're obviously excited to be in the final, but it's very, very tricky conditions. So I think if we just keep sailing the way we're sailing, we'll have a real shot.
Well, Jimmy, OK, we're in the final. We're down to 3 boats. There's more space. There's still not an awful lot of wind looking behind you there. What's your priority here? Is this all about the start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we clearly want to try and get off the line well, but it's one of these racetracks in these conditions where it's never over. I mean, there's just a lot of minefields on the racetrack, so really just trying to stay in the pressure and sail your own race. There's a little bit of a thunderstorm system upwind of the racetrack, so yeah, we'll just see what happens.
Jimmy, you've got an incredible sense of timing. You've kept us all entertained so far. Great luck in the final. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Righto, let's do some bit of line work.
So it is all to play for now in the final race, the event final. Only the top 3 teams are in. It'll be Emirates, GBR, Australia, and the USA. Going down on the water now with the Australians and Tom Slingsby, the driver. Tom, you've been in this situation before, light winds, heavy winds, and now you've got a great battle with some veterans that you know oh so well with Emirates GBR in the USA. How are you going to play this one?
Yeah, no, obviously it's great to go up against the British, and the US have sailed a great day. Yeah, it's very tough out here. Not able to even pop a hull, let alone on the foil. Look, let's go do our best.
Tom, is it any sort of surprise to you to see that perhaps 3 of the more experienced teams with you've had a few years on the tools in these boats make the final when you've had a big windy day and a light wind day? Is that something that doesn't surprise you?
Doesn't really surprise me. I mean, these sorts of conditions, we haven't had a great day today, but we're fortunate we had a good day yesterday, so we're going to be in the final. But these sorts of conditions, God, I don't know. I'd love some tips from someone who knows what they're doing because it's just so hard to find the wind, man. I feel like we do a good job, and then boats pass us from both sides, and so it can get pretty tough out here.
Well, Pete, thanks very much for that, Tom. I've got Pete Burling sat next to me, so I'll ask him and you'll be able to watch the show back later. Good luck for the final.
Yeah, Yeah, cheers. I'm sure Pete knows exactly where to go.
Have a good one, mate.
So Australia's in, the USA is in, and that means Emirates GBR, we go on board. Ben Ainsley, Hannah Mills, this is going to be a tricky one. You know these guys so well. How are you going to play this, Ben? What's going to be the key? Obviously, the start is going to play a heavy toll on how you guys finish.
Yeah, start's always important with the finals race, but in this light stuff, might not be that it matters that much, you know, because the boat can come from behind if they find some extra breeze and split from the boats ahead. So just trying to keep it calm, keep the boat rolling, and getting the best breeze.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. Wish you the best as we let you get about your business, getting ready. Emirates GBR, Australia and USA will be competing for the event title here at the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix in Taranto. Remember, it is only about 3 weeks away until it is on to Spain in the Spain Sail Grand Prix in Cadiz. That'll be coming up October 14th and the 15th. So the three protagonists are getting themselves into position into the start box, and then it is all to play for the final race of the day. And before the event final kicks off, we go down on the water and Lisa Darmanin. Well, we're trying to get some communications with Lisa Darmanin on the water. As you see, Tom Slingsby, the Australians on the left, the Americans in the center, and Emirates GBR on the right. Stevie, how are you feeling? Take a shot.
How am I feeling? Well, it's a day to unpredict. I feel like momentum at the moment with Jimmy Spithill, but Pete's here. Come on, Pete. Put your money where your mouth is. Who do you think in these breeze is going to be the team to beat?
Oh, well, you know, looking at today, obviously Jimmy's coming to the blocks absolutely firing with 2 great results, and you know, Ben's had a couple of good ones as well, but yeah, you can't write the Aussies off, can you? So it's yeah, I think anyone's to play for. I think the start will be incredibly important, and you know, leading at Mark 1 will be a critical point of the race.
And I don't know if this has ever happened before, Stevie. We've got 3 teams in the event final, and all 3 teams have won a race. So they've earned their spot here. It hasn't been just a consistency thing. They have all tasted victory, so you could make a case for each and every one of these teams.
I think you could make a case for any of these 3 teams winning here for this final race, and it's going to come down to the positioning. And what's interesting in this light winds is actually the boats are already now pretty much lined up for how they're going to hope to come into the start area. We can see they're moving pretty slowly, but they'll be looking already, trying to predict what that wind's going to do in the next few minutes. Emily Nagel, we've not heard from you. One word, who's going to win this final?
Oh, I don't like putting my money anywhere, but I really want the USA to do well here. You know, they've had a really, really tough weekend, and they've come out today on such good form. I just want to see that go further.
Momentum is one thing, and I guess, Peter Burley, I'll ask you, the Americans are the most recent winners, winning the last race, race number 5, in a dramatic fashion. We had to wait and crunch the numbers until we found out confirmation that they were in. Do you give them an edge because they have that little bit of momentum with 2:40 to go before the start?
Yeah, well, I think you've definitely got to disregard anything that happened yesterday. Obviously, completely different conditions, completely different configuration. You know, sailing the boat in a lot of breeze, 6 up, where today's been all about, you know, the light air, the 4 ups. Yeah, obviously, Ben got up to a win in that first race, off to a really good start, and then Jimmy bouncing back in the second. So I think both of them carry a lot of momentum, but you know, obviously Tom's pretty good in this light air as well. So I wouldn't put my money on anyone, but yeah, I'd say Jimmy's probably got a slight edge momentum-wise going into this final.
Well, and I think here we see the driver lineup. We're down to 4, of course, let's remember, for this final, Jimmy Spithill. But I think for Erica Reinecke there, it's a big, big day. Head out the boat. My memory's drawn back to Saint-Tropez in Season 3. A very windy first day, a very light wind second day. Who won there? Jimmy Spithill's US team. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Perhaps they're very good at that kind of ability to adapt to the changing conditions. That's what our sport's all about. And those 4 sailors there have done a great job so far today. But they've got to do it in the next minute and 30.
The course is 5 legs, axis is 210, wind is approximately 9 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, it's incredible in this light air. You already see them starting to jockey for position. Obviously, the boats take so much longer to move a distance, so that in the light air, you've really got to start things early on. And you can see the British obviously leading it out there. They'll probably be trying to look at a more Windwardian start, and then I'd assume the US will just slot in below the Australians after the attack here. So it's going to be anyone's to play for.
Well, there we see, I think, pretty big moment here. This light winds, you've got to be so careful with the wind, and chief in charge of the wind is the wing trimmer, really. So I think Carl Langford, we saw there, one of the most experienced in the business, but I feel like the Australians are a little bit out of position at this stage. I think USA and Great Britain, probably Great Britain, have got the space, and I'd be wanting to have space if I could here. We're going to be all about acceleration with 38 seconds to go. And, well, Ben Ainsley, Luke Parkinson, they've done it last weekend. Can they do it again?
Best angle here.
Best pressures on the nose.
So 30 seconds to go, and the event final is on. It is Australia, USA, and Emirates GBR that'll battle it out for the title here in Taranto, Italy.
Well, here we go. It's crucial moments now. We can see that bottom end of the start line towards the top of our screen. It's the downwind end. It's showing us the favoured end. USA have judged their running well. Ben Ainsley's well positioned, but too far back. It's going to be, all the boats will be late to this start line, but the earliest to show should be USA. Good start, Jimmy Spittle, with the line going white. No problems there. Big problems on board Australia. They're out the back, and it's now, well, it's happening at slow speed. It's like a long-term battle to get to Mark 1. Death by 1,000 cuts potentially for Australia from this position, but Jimmy Spittle's US have got a straight line shot now towards the first mark, and they're well positioned, but they've got to be so careful.
USA are across the line, and they are currently the fastest boat on the course, 9.5 kilometres an hour of boat speed. Meanwhile, the Aussies just starting to build speed now.
Yeah, I think that start just all got set up so early on, didn't it? You know, they obviously tacked into the lure to the Australians and forced them out the back, and then were the only ones to be able to make it back to the start close to time. And you can really tell it's a lighter race when your best start can crosses the line 12 seconds after the gun, can't you?
Well, we could be in store for a Cinderella story here, as the Americans look like they were counted out of making it, and somehow they found a way and got a little help from the rest of the fleet as they got into the final. Can they make the payoff here? They haven't won since the Saint-Tropez event and last year that Stevie mentioned. It would be an amazing performance for them, but they are up against the very best with Emirates GBR and Australia. Right now, let's go down on the water. Lisa Darman, and I know everyone, including those that are sailing out there, are hoping that you're going to give a report that Breeze is on the way.
It's looking incredibly light out here, Todd. There's a lot of cloud that's just sitting to the left of the race course. It's really shut it down, unfortunately. So it is a little bit of a snail's race out here at the moment, but I know the USA team obviously have performed traditionally quite well in this light breeze, so great to see them out in front. But to be honest, it's hard to pick where it's going to come from. When the clouds are moving like this, it is really hard to predict. And I was just on with the British team. That's why you lost me for a little bit. And I was asking Ben what he thought and was he confident? And he said anything can happen in this game. You just got to take every minute as it comes.
Well, anything can happen, but for Jimmy Spittle on board the US boat, it's a good start. And Peter, what I want to ask you is, we can see a great shot there of that big wing sail. That's what's catching the wind on the boat. That's what's powering the boats, propelling them forward. But how hard in this light wind is it to actually get the maximum efficiency from that wing?
Yeah, it's definitely very easy to stall the wing in this light air, and you'll actually see all the wing trimmers sitting down to leeward, pulling the wing to leeward, just with the tension through the cables that you see holding up the wing. They actually try and rotate it to centre, so you're all down to leeward, pulling it that way. But you heard Jimmy say before that the wind is a long way left, so I think you'll be expecting a pretty big left turn down here and pretty much straight down. But it looks pretty light, doesn't it?
It looks pretty light at the moment. You can see there, that's Mac Agnese there. He's got his head out. He stood up again, trying to get that slightly higher view of the water, trying to see what's happened, and we're only at Mark 1. I'm pretty sure time limits are going to come into play in this race. It's only leg 1 of 5. Remember, it's 16-minute time limit. We're down at just 6.2 kilometres an hour.
This is race committee. We are moving gate 3, shortening the race to 0.3 nautical miles.
Gate 3 is the gate we're going to go to after this one. So at the moment they're turning left at gate Mark 1, and they're going to head down towards gate number 2. And well, it's really now, I think it's in the lap of the gods here. USA have made their decision. He's going to try and be minimising distance, I think, right now. If he can't see any wind, obviously, coming down the course, then I suppose your next option that you can perhaps control, Pete, is to minimise distance.
Yeah, last time we saw these super light conditions as well, we actually able to kind of assist the boat going forwards a little bit more with the foils, which is now been banned subsequently just because of the system's wear and tear. So it's, yeah, everyone's driving at this Mark 1. It looks like there's a little bit of current kind of pushing them, you know, left to right on our screen as well. So I think you'll see them get straight down here. Hopefully we can get a little bit more breeze. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a good one for Lisa to just check in on what those clouds were doing that we could see before.
Okay, so we try this wind angle here.
Yeah, Pete, looking at the clouds around here, there is a big cloud activity on the right-hand side, and as we're hearing, it is so far left, but as sailors, you've got to be ready for it to change at any moment, and I think that's the thing. It is so far left. We know that the breeze wants to be further right, so really eyes out at the moment, but for me, obviously USA is leading, but if you're in the back of the pack, do you split or do you go the favoured way?
And Pete, I thought it was interesting as we think back to you guys opening up the season in Chicago, getting that win in extremely light conditions similar to this. And Stevie and I were talking about the helicopters. Could the helicopters actually bring some breeze? Oh, that's just a joke. We won't mention it. But you were saying that there's a possibility that some people might have got an advantage from a helicopter being too close to the course.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, I wouldn't joke about it. It happens. You quite often hear Jimmy actually talking on the radio, trying to get helicopters to move and get out of the way. But it's you know, obviously there's not a lot of wind, so you really see that disturbance if they do get a little too close, and you know, hopefully they don't affect the racing here today.
Back at Mark 1, we are seeing the Aussies making gains here. The British, unfortunately, completely parked up in their manoeuvre, down to 1.2 kilometres an hour of boat speed. Now, I'm not saying the USA and Aussies are sailing away from them, but they are moving.
Yeah. So 16 minutes is the time limit. Stevie, you called it. It is most certainly going to come into play as the course, Mel Roberts announcing it has been shortened. And this is just a slow drift around Mark 1.
Yeah, and I think this camera angle we've got here, back right-hand side of our screen, you can see a dark cloud. And I think once you start seeing big weather systems like that happening in a hot, temperate place like we've got down there in southern Italy, of course, it's lovely weather they've got down there, but when it does start to get hot and a bit of moisture in the air that we've got around, you see these big clouds bubbling up, and that's what's affecting our weather. Of course, SailGP, we're powered by nature. We've got the, you know, joy of a day like yesterday with a lot of wind and fast action, but then this tactical game that comes into play when the weather decides to be a little bit different and a little bit trickier, it's just, it can be so easily affected. So I think we've got some big cloud activity that could, of course, bring us a big change in the wind in the next few minutes, and I think the fans there will be hoping for that. But right now, Paul Campbell-James said it a moment ago, let's just point at the mark. It's all about sailboat racing. Fundamentally comes down to control the controllables, and on a day like today, there's few things you can really control out there, Pete, but I guess pointing at the next gate and trying to minimise distance, well, that's one thing you can control.
Yeah, and to get a result here, just so everyone knows, you've got to make it through gate 2 and then to gate 3. So there's that minimum distance of the race we have to get to, and you know, also you've got to make that within that 16-minute time limit. So essentially, once the race starts, even if it shuts down like this, the only thing that can happen is that it'll time out. So yeah, hopefully USA can get a little puff and make that stick.
Yeah, currently the USA, the only boat on the course doing over 2 kilometres an hour, but at that speed, it's still a long way to gate 2.
Oh, hearing big puff to windward, that's exciting for all of us watching, isn't it? Yeah, obviously the course is incredibly short, so it won't take much of a puff to get that, and yeah, it's looking like a bit of a Cinderella story at the moment, isn't it? And
fair to say, Pete, that when the boats do start going a little bit more upwind, it's a bit easier to actually build speed than going downwind in these things.
Yeah, it's a little counterintuitive to your average person, but essentially the more flow you can get over the wing, the better it goes. So, you know, while you're trying to get that flow going and accelerate the boat, then if you're pointing into the breeze, you actually have more apparent wind kind of going over things. It'd be like if you put your hand out the window of the car driving along the road, you get that breeze from the front, and that's really where we get the lift and the drive. So yeah, it'll be a little bit interesting. I'm not actually quite sure which direction the breeze is coming from right now, to be honest, looking across the course, but hopefully a little puff can come in before that 16 minutes and get them to the finish.
Yeah, currently we're seeing quite a few different directions from our wind readings on all of the different marks, up to 90 degrees different around the course. So, tricky day for the strategists.
Race terminates in under 7.5 minutes. Good time to go down on the water, get a first-hand account from Lisa Darman. And Lisa, has anything changed? Is any shifts that you're seeing possibly that could affect this race?
Yeah, definitely. In the last couple of minutes, there's been a breeze line sitting on the right-hand side of the course, so kind of away from the seawall, the direction the boats are heading, which is good news. It was moving down, and so the British are getting into that a little bit now. Unfortunately, the USA team are in a big hole, so they may be the last to get it. But in about another 5 minutes, I can see another line coming down. But the real question is will it get here in time? The other thing cool at SailGP is we've got electronic GPS marks. We don't have to anchor them. So they can move around and the race committee can shift the course around, and that's what's happening. It's super unstable here and yeah, super intense actually.
Hey Lisa, is that a good puff we can see between the bottom gate there?
Yeah, there's a really small, it's very narrow puff, but then after they go around that gate, there won't be much to sail into. It's super patchy. The puffs are only a couple of meters long, so it's going to be hard to capitalise on them, and it's kind of, if it gets to them at the right time, they should have a nice mark rounding as well.
I think what Lisa and Pete are saying there is the wind was coming from the right-hand side of our screen and blowing across to the left, but at the moment there's hints of wind coming from the left-hand screen. That could be the fans on the shore encouraging things out. But what's really important for us to remember right now is that should the boats not make the finish, so if they don't make it to the next gate, gate number 3, if they don't make it through gate 2 where they're headed now and then up to gate number 3 within the 16 minutes, this race will be terminated. If this race is terminated, we will still have a winner here in Taranto. It'll go back to the positions after the 5th race. So that would mean Great Britain, who are languishing on our screen at the moment, not in much wind, would take the win. But it looks like Jimmy Spittle's moving on that US boat.
Yeah, it's good news right now for the US, who have 11 kilometers an hour of breeze up on the top of their wing. So they're not seeing that on the water, but the top of the wing, they are getting a little more pressure. GBR further away from the canal where the breeze is funneling through. They're going to struggle here.
Yeah, the breeze has done a complete 180, hasn't it? Obviously, Jimmy, if he gets around this mark, is going to be in pretty good shape, I think, to get back down to the bottom with that puff he's in. So it's, yeah, definitely all to play for here, isn't it?
If you're just joining us, this is the event final here at the ROCKWOOL Italy Sail Grand Prix in Taranto. Looking for breeze, everyone's searching for pressure out on the course. Right now it is USA SailGP in the lead as they slowly go around that gate. They've got to make it up to the next gate for this race to be official, and there's a 16-minute time limit. To Stevie's point, if they do not get there, it is going to be difficult for this race to go official, so it would go back to how they finished in race number 5 in the standings, which would mean Emirates GBR would get the win, Australia 2nd, and the USA would finish in 3rd.
I think that lower seats because the next one's high.
Here we go. We've got a split in the fleet here, and it's going to be interesting to see. We've still got 4 minutes left. This is a very short leg down to the next gate, to gate 3, but these boats have to make it to the next gate if we're going to get a score here. So right now, first place, Jimmy Spittle, but to my eye, Pete, the Australian boat's moving quite quickly, and perhaps this could be their opportunity to find an overtake.
Yeah, well, obviously 4 minutes to get down to that next top gate to get a finish, but definitely looks like they've taken the favoured side there, doesn't it? Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see how this next puff shapes up. You've got good speed on Great Britain from behind now as well, so it's going to be interesting to see if they can capitalise on this puff and actually get to the finish of the race.
And I just don't see, Stevie, how they're going to make it up there in under 3.5 minutes.
Well, I think my concern would be that they're getting a little bit of wind coming from the left of our screen at the moment, but back where they're headed is where there was no wind, where they were sat for so long, unfortunately, after Mark 1. But let's see, Ben Ainsley, we can hear. He looks calm still, but here we go. He's looking around for wind. Oh, well, that didn't look great as a reaction there, Ben. You know, that wasn't the reaction of someone that's just seen a big gust of wind and is thinking he's about to make a charge through the fleet to me. So, yeah, challenging times with just 2 minutes 57 left. And I'll remind everyone, if we do have to, unfortunately, terminate this grand final, we go back to our series after 5 races. That would actually hand the win, the 2nd in a row, to Emirates Great Britain. That wouldn't be how they'd want to win it, I'm sure, but a win would be a win. It would be Great Britain first, Australia 2nd, and the US, well, they've had an amazing day. They're leading as we stand right now, but 2 minute 33, perhaps starting to need a little bit of a lucky gust of wind to get them to the finish, and it's not looking great at the moment.
The USA really struggling after going for that left-hand turn, in a lot less pressure than the Aussies who did that right-hand turn. half the boat speed at the moment.
And they have done everything to lighten the load, including going to just 4 athletes on board.
Yeah, it's absolutely done everything you can out there, but you just can't, you know, we're powered by nature. We've got to rely on nature turning up, and as we say, it's a stormy day out there, Pete. It looks to me like there's perhaps a bit of a storm brewing offshore, and that's just really hurt our wind at the moment.
Yeah, you definitely can't control the weather, can you? And that's what we play with. And but yeah, everyone's obviously trying it as hard as they always do, just to try and make it to their finish. And the points are exactly the same whether you win them in a light air drifter race like this or in a big day like yesterday. So it's all fair play. Hopefully they can get to the finish in a minute and a half, but I'm not sure it's looking the best at the moment.
Well, if it was a normal breeze, Pete, I'd be confident that 200 metres in a minute and a half would be no problem at all. As we look at our screen, right-hand side, that's the finish line. That's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that the crews are trying to get to right now, but perhaps it's a bridge too far, even for these top teams. USA, they're aiming nearly straight at it, as are Australia, but they need a little wind. Look at the fan on the front of the boat there, Pete, barely turning.
Yeah, it's never a good sign when you see the cup spinning that slowly on the wind wand, is it? But that's, for people that don't know, they're actually part of the instrumentation system, so that tells us on the boat how much wind we think we have, and there's a whole computer software simulation behind it to figure out from that apparent wind actually what our true wind direction is, which we use a lot on board. But yeah, it's obviously looking incredibly light out there. We're under a minute now, and I think this one might go the way of Great Britain.
Only 30 seconds to go here until the race terminates.
And with under 30 seconds to go, look at the wind coming off the top of the wing of Emirates GBR. It's actually ticking close to 10 kilometers an hour, and it's just going to go by the wayside because we are now down to 15 seconds to go, and there's no chance of them making it to the finish line. So this race will be terminated. And to Stevie's point, we go back to the results after race number 5 and the standings that were there, and that means that Emirates GBR is going to win the second event in a row as they come off the victory in Saint-Tropez, and they'll back it up with a win here in Taranto. And now the wind comes up, and now they are moving. So maybe it's apropos that they move into first place as the race has now been officially terminated.
There we go. What a shame that was, Todd.
So the final results look like this. It is Emirates GBR getting the win. Australia second, the USA third.
So if it's terminated, does it mean it goes to the gate, or does it mean it's just what it was for the series?
And they're still trying to figure out on board, Stevie. For those that are listening, possibly let them know the good news or the bad news if you're not on board Emirates GBR.
And it wasn't the most high octane of starts, but the boats did start jostling for position as soon as they could, all aiming straight for that blue triangle, the optimum start position. The British team and the Aussies really did slow down in that final maneuver, which gave the edge to the USA team, who managed to creep over the line just fast enough to get the Rolex best time start. It did take them 12 seconds to get over the line, but hopefully next event in Cadiz will be a bit more speed.
Wow, and here we go. Overhead in this final there. As we come towards Mark 1, it was all pretty slow out there on the water, but we saw there Jimmy Spittle. He led the team so well. It was a fantastic performance from the US today, and unfortunately, the ROCKWOOL rockstar of the day was Jimmy Spittle for me. Incredible leadership of that US team. Unfortunately, they couldn't finish things, but they did get a fantastic job done for the team.
And just getting themselves into that final, Stevie, was an amazing feat after they lost Hans Henken. And the Americans rally behind him, and they get into the event final. But then Mother Nature, well, she shut things down. And, of course, as Stevie's mentioned before, SailGP is powered by nature. And capricious at best, there was just no wind in the event final. So it goes back to the results as it stood after race number 5. And those results had Emirates GBR in first, Australia in second, and the USA finishing in third. So let's take a look at the points as it has all come to a conclusion here. Championship Sunday, May not have been as exciting as it was on Saturday, but still it proved a point, and it is Emirates GBR 2 for 2 after winning in France. They get the win here in Italy, Australia finishing in second, the USA finishing in third. Then it's France in fourth, Canada, Spain, ROCKWOOL, Denmark finishing in seventh, and a disappointing visit to Italy for Switzerland, Germany, and of course New Zealand unable to go because of wing damage in France. Wow, just such a beautiful sight, Stevie. The Brits will celebrate, but just an awkward way to celebrate of, yeah, well, we got the win.
Well, they've sailed the best over the weekend, so I think it is a deserved victory, really, and you never know how it's going to play out. I mean, they had actually found the most wind. Had that race lasted 2 minutes longer, I think it would have been Emirates Great Britain that would have got to the finish. They didn't, but deserved winners nonetheless.
And Emirates GBR never finished worse than third over 5 races, and they get the win in the end. We now go on board Emirates Great Britain. Congratulations, Ben Ainsley. It was a very peculiar finish. And when did you guys get the word that you had actually won the race on termination?
Yeah, we couldn't really figure that out, to be honest, what a terminated race meant in terms of when the scoring went back to. But race committee Mellow Race Control came through with the word. So yeah, obviously delighted for the team. It's been a great weekend.
And Ben, that's some serious momentum you're starting to get now. I mean, it's obviously probably not the way you'd like to win, but no results out of the top 3 all weekend. Quite an impressive performance. You must be feeling pretty happy with the team again.
Yeah, the team did a great job all weekend. I mean, certainly we were lucky there in that race, as you saw, the wind was all over the place. I mean, we'd actually, just when they terminated the race, we just picked up a little pathful of our own and maybe had a shot at getting back into it. But, you know, the consistency, as you said, the consistency that the team showed through the weekend has been really strong, and feels like we're making headway in terms of how we're sailing the boat and communicating. So, yeah, give momentum to the team.
Ben, you could celebrate for just a few weeks, and then it's on to Spain. What do you expect there? You guys always seem to do pretty well in Cadiz.
Yeah, we love Cadiz. It's one of the favourite venues. Normally you get decent sea breeze or a good land breeze as well. It's a beautiful city. We love the Spanish. It's been great here in Italy as well, though. So that's the beauty of SailGP. We've got some great venues.
Ben, thanks so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you in Spain. And once again, it is Emirates GBR that gets the win here in Italy. A tremendous performance across the board as they finish no worse than third across any of the races they participated in. Stevie, we talk about this all the time. It's consistency, and the Brits were the most consistent.
They were, and again, they're going to get to enjoy their champagne moment here, that's for sure. I mean, you know, it's been a great weekend for them. Consistency counts. I didn't want to remind Ben Ainsley, 20 years ago in 2003, won a World Championships there. So Ben's been there before, done it well, and he'll be looking forward to it.
Final standings look like this now after 4 events. It is Australia still in front. Emirates GBR sitting in second, Spain in third, ROCKWOOL, Denmark. There you see the Kiwis in New Zealand. Peter Burley will be back after it in the next event in Spain. The Americans now in 6th. France, Canada, Switzerland, and Germany. So the next event comes up October 14th and 15th. That is Spain Sail Grand Prix in Cadiz. So for Stevie Morrison, Emily Nagel, Lisa Darmanin, and Peter Burley joining us in the commentary, I'm Todd Harris saying so long for now from Italy. We will see you in a few weeks' time in Spain.
Oh, and here we go. We can see a slight change in tempo from yesterday's high wind. Wow! Everyone way early. And a brilliant result for Ben Ainsley. Fairly tactical chess game out there at the moment.
The Americans, they saved their best for last.
A huge moment coming here. The USA have done enough. That would be massive.